All right, let's dive into something fascinating today. We're going to try and decode the language of the stock market, but we're going to do it by focusing on just one company, Theriva Biologics. Think of this as a case study, where we'll use the tools of technical analysis to figure out if this stock is a hidden opportunity or maybe a risk you'd want to avoid. Let's get into it.
So this really gets us to the heart of the matter. You see a stock trading for less than a quarter, and you got to ask yourself, is this a massive undiscovered bargain? Or is this what they call a falling knife? Something that looks cheap, but you really don't want to try and catch? Well, that's what our tools are for. They're here to help us find some clues.
So, who exactly are we looking at? The company is Theriva Biologics, and its ticker is TOVX. It's a small-cap health stock, trades on the AMEX, and yeah, at the time of this analysis, the price is sitting just under that 20-cent mark. So that's the basic file on our subject. Now, let's start digging into the technicals.
Okay, step one. We need to figure out the most fundamental thing. Which way is the price generally heading? We're not worried about every little up and down tick for now. We just want to know the direction of the current. Is it going up, down, or sideways? To do that, we use a fantastic tool called moving averages. They're awesome because they smooth out all the daily noise. Think about it like this. If you're driving, a moving average isn't showing you every single bump and pothole. It's just showing you if the road overall is heading uphill, downhill, or staying flat. Simple as that.
And what do you know? Right away, the clues are giving us a conflicting story. On one hand, you look at the super short term, the last 10 days, and hey, the price is just a little bit above the average. That's a small check in the good news column. But when we zoom out just a little bit to the 20-day trend, the price is actually below the average. So this is our first big clue. We've got a tiny bit of recent positive movement, but it's happening inside a bigger, more negative trend. Interesting.
Okay, so we know the general direction is, well, it's a mixed bag. So the next question is about the character of that movement. You know, how wild is this ride? Is it a roller coaster or is it a calm stream? And where's the energy, the momentum, actually flowing?
To measure that wildness, or what analysts call volatility, we use something called Bollinger Bands. And the river analogy here is just perfect. When those river banks are really far apart, it means the price is splashing all over the place, up and down. That's high volatility. But when the banks are close together, the price is just flowing calmly right down a narrow little channel.
And for TOVX, the bands are super narrow. This tells us the market for this stock is really, really calm right now. There are no big dramatic price swings happening. The price is also kind of just hanging out in the lower half of this calm river. So the big takeaway here is it's quiet with a slight downward drift inside its narrow lane.
Now, for momentum, we use an indicator called the MACD. I know, it sounds super complicated, but just think of it like an engine light for the stock's energy. When its little histogram chart flips from negative to positive, it can be a signal that upward energy, or momentum, is starting to build up.
And this is a perfect example of how subtle these clues can be. The MACD for TOVX is positive, which, technically is a good thing. But just look at how tiny that number is. It's basically telling us that, yeah, there's a whisper of upward momentum, but it is incredibly weak. It's like the engine just barely sputtered to life.
So let's recap. We have a weak short-term trend, super low volatility, and the faintest hint of momentum. So our third question is, what's the vibe? What's the mood of the market? Are other investors feeling greedy about this stock? Are they fearful? Or do they just not care?
For that, we turn to the Relative Strength Index, or RSI, and I absolutely love the gas gauge analogy for this one. If the RSI is way up above 70, the stock is considered overbought. It's like it's running too hot, and maybe everyone who is going to buy already has. And if it's down below 30, it's oversold. Maybe it's running on empty and is due for a little bounce back.
So the RSI for TOVX is 42.73. Right, so it's not above 70, and it's not below 30. So what is that telling us?
It's telling us the market mood is completely, totally neutral. There is no strong feeling here one way or the other. Investors aren't scrambling to buy it out of greed, and they're not panic selling it out of fear. The stock is just kind of there. The market is basically shrugging its shoulders at it.
All right, detective time. We've gathered our evidence on the trend, the volatility, the momentum, and the market mood. Now it's time to put all of these clues together and see if we can reach a verdict.
And this case file just lays out the whole puzzle perfectly. On the positive side, yeah, it's above its 10-day average, and the low volatility means the market is calm. And then you see that the MACD histogram is technically positive, but look closer at the actual momentum reading, it's negative. It's a classic conflicting signal, which just shows how deep the indecision runs. You add that to the fact it's still below the more important 20-day average and has a totally neutral RSI, and you get a picture that is truly a mixed bag.
So when you weigh all that evidence, the pros and the cons, what score do you end up with? You get a score of exactly 5 out of 10. I mean, you can't get more neutral than that. It's not a 1, which would scream sell, and it's not a 10, which would scream buy. It is dead center. And that leads us to the final recommendation from the analysis. Neutral with slight recovery. Hold. So what does that mean in plain English? It means the data shows no big reason to sell it if you own it, but it's definitely not giving you a compelling reason to rush out and buy it either. That slight recovery part acknowledges those tiny positive signals we saw, but the big picture, the main verdict, is one of patience. It's saying, let's wait for a stronger signal, either good or bad, before we make a big move.
So, let's go back to where we started. Hidden gem or falling knife? Well, the technical analysis suggests it's neither, really. It's a stock that's just in a state of quiet indecision, waiting for something to happen. And that, of course, leaves the most important question of all for you. Now that you've seen the evidence, what would you do?